Well, hello again and welcome to Pioneer Human Services annual Change Maker Luncheon. I never imagined we'd be at another virtual event, but here we are, and I'm just grateful that we can be together. My name is Angela Poe Russell. I'm the co-host of Evening, and someone told me this is my 7th year hosting the event, which I can't believe. Time has flown, and I have just over the years fallen in love with Pioneer and the work that's being done, whether it's employment training, job opportunities, housing, all of those things to give people a chance for change. And when you think about the impact, it's just huge, some 10,000 people each year. We're gonna let you hear about the work and get a little bit more closer to the work during this program. I think it's going to be thought-provoking for you and also inspirational. Before we get started, a couple of things you should know. If you need support during the event, we do have some helpers. Just go to the chat and you'll find some information on how you can get help. If you need closed captioning, that's there as well. We'll explain how to access in Google Chrome, so take note of that. And again, if you have any specific issues, there's joanne.yu@p-h-s, that's hard to say, .com, and Joanne can answer your specific questions. Just include your name and your phone number and whatever problem you're experiencing, and they'll get right back to you. Before we dive and get into the program, I want to introduce Pioneer Human Services Board Chair Steve Mullen. He's going to give us a land acknowledgement.
Thank you, Angela. My name is Steve Mullen, and I serve as the board chair for Pioneer Human Services. We want to acknowledge that much of the work we do is on the land of the Duwamish people. The Duwamish are the first people of Seattle, and the city is named after one of its chiefs. Like Black and Latinx populations, Native people still live with the effects of racism and are overrepresented in the prison population. We invite you to share the Native land that you are on in the chat. If you don't know the land that you are on, you can check at native-land.ca. Thank you for joining us in taking a moment to recognize those who have tended the land on which we live and work, and the Native people still here.
Thank you for that reminder, Steve. And this is a great time to practice using the chat because we're going to be having a game later, and trust me, you will want to participate. We just posted a link to the website that Steve just mentioned. I'd love for you just to go to the website right now. It is so easy to use. You just put in your zip code or your address, and it'll tell you the land that you're on. Again, that's native-land.ca. Just go there right now, link in the chat. I actually did this earlier because I'm in Florida to support my mom. And so I used this tool and found out that I'm on Muskogee land. And that's something I didn't know. So let's see. Oh, I'm getting some answers. Someone says they're on Coast Salish land. That's from Kate. And let's see, Confederate villages of John. Okay, Tulalip. So a lot of people already. Someone else said, I'm on Puyallup land. Thank you so much for sharing that. It's a really cool resource, and we're grateful that we have it. You know, as we've talked about, if you're familiar with this organization, Pioneer Human Services is doing such important work, employment training, the housing support, which you're going to hear about a little bit later. And we're able to do this because of you and because of the many generous sponsors that we have. So we just want to take a moment to acknowledge them. First, our Life Changer sponsor. Let's give it up for them. Yes, here we go. Columbia Hospitality and John and Deanna Oppenheimer. Google, Lise Crutcher Lewis and Bill Lewis. Olympic Hot Tub. Primera Blue Cross. Virginia Mason Franciscan Health. And Vulcan. So thank you so much to our Life Changer sponsors. Let's go to our media sponsor, the Seattle Times. We are so appreciative of you making change possible for so many people. And now let's take a look at our Transformer sponsors. So appreciative to all of them. Just take it in, support those who support your values. I love it. Thank you so much for all that you do. Now we'd like to show our advocate sponsors, doing a lot of great work because of them. It takes all of us to do when we talk about the 10,000 people that are helped each year through Pioneer. And then we'd like to show our friend sponsors. We are so appreciative of your commitment to Pioneer Human Services, and we can't wait to see what we're going to do next because of your generosity. In terms of why we are here today, of course, this is a fundraiser. We do it every year, but this is also about bringing a community together. I mean, it has been a tough, I'm almost losing track of time. It's been a tough year for so many people, but especially for the clients served by Pioneer Human Services. And we're grateful that despite all of the challenges, Pioneer has been able to continue providing employment training and housing support to their clients. And we're going to talk more about giving a little bit later in the program. But for now, we hope you're just going to learn from us and just be inspired. Or I should say learn with us, because we are constantly learning. We don't know it all. On that note, here's what you can expect over the course of the program. We're going to be speaking with the author of this book, which is so good. You have to pick it up. Dr. Reuben Jonathan Miller. His research and conversations with current and formerly incarcerated people. You're going to also hear from our special guest, Jacob Day. He's going to be joining us live from the studio. Basically, he worked at Pioneer and went on to bigger and better things. And I'm so excited to hear his story, and I think you'll be inspired by it. And many of you are already familiar with what Pioneer Human Services does and why we do it. For those of you who are new and you're just learning about the organization, we want to share this little video with you. And just a hint, pay really close attention, because we're going to be asking you some questions in a few moments, and the answers you'll find in this clip. So check it out.
Pioneer Human Services is a nonprofit social enterprise that serves people who have been involved with the criminal legal system, who are in need of treatment, housing, job skills training, and employment in Washington State. Since every person we serve has unique needs based on their individual experiences, our customized service areas are designed to meet everyone where they're at. Formerly incarcerated people are almost 10 times more likely to be homeless than the general public, and they face widespread discrimination in securing safe, stable housing. Over half of people arrested multiple times report having a substance use disorder. And people with multiple arrests are 3 times as likely to have a serious mental illness. Shockingly, most people who need treatment do not receive it while they are incarcerated. Employment is also exceptionally hard when one has been justice involved. Even during times of record low unemployment, people with conviction histories have a staggering unemployment rate of 27%. When formerly incarcerated people do land jobs, they're commonly insecure and low-paying positions. In fact, in the first year after release, the median earnings of those previously incarcerated is just above $10,000 a year. At Pioneer, we work to break down these barriers to treatment, housing, and employment so the people we serve truly have an opportunity to lead healthy, productive lives in the community. Pioneer owns and operates 18 affordable housing complexes and provides over 630 units of housing. Knowing that many people get involved with the legal system due to issues with substance use disorders and untreated mental health issues, Pioneer breaks the cycle of incarceration for these people by providing inpatient, outpatient, and diversion programs which treat these issues rather than criminalize them. Our roadmap to success, job readiness programs, help people overcome employment barriers to find and retain jobs. We also offer direct employment opportunities in our aerospace manufacturing plants that provide a livable wage with many pathways to education and advancement. At Pioneer, we are committed to providing hope and opportunity while also providing the skills and tools our clients need to not just survive, but thrive.
I love that, the idea that it's not just about surviving, but about thriving. And Pioneer just helps make that possible. Pioneer, along with all of our partners, and that includes you. I hope you're paying attention, because as I promised, we're going to be playing a game, 2 truths and a lie. And if you'll see some of what was mentioned in there is going to come up. All right, so here's I'm going to throw out basically the 3 statements, and then you will put in the chat which one you think is the lie. Okay, let me make sure I don't miss out on any instructions. Here we go. So A, after 1 year from being released, the median annual income of a previously incarcerated person is just above $20,000 a year. Again, it's which of these statements is the lie? B, formerly incarcerated individuals are 10 times more likely to be homeless. Or is it C, People with conviction histories experience a much higher unemployment rate than those without. All right, type your answer in the chat. Which one is the lie? Okay, I'm gonna be monitoring the chat to see which is correct. Okay, I wanna see who had it first. Well, you guys were quick. You were paying attention. All right, all right, all right. Boy, a lot of correct answers here. I feel like I need music as I figure out. Okay, it looks like Victoria may have had the answer first. If I had it wrong, then I'm sure we'll correct it later. But the answer is A. Here's the deal. It's A, after 1 year of being released, the median annual income of previously incarcerated people is just above $20,000. That is a lie. It's actually just above $10,000. And you know that is not a livable wage. So that's why Pioneer is here, to make a difference with that. So thank you so much for playing that particular game. I think we were able to pull it off, which is a little bit challenging virtually, but we did it. So thank you to our technical team here for making that happen. And you all did a great job. A lot of correct answers, and you got them in pretty quick. We're going to be playing again in just a few moments. But first, I want to introduce the CEO, our fearless leader at Pioneer Human Services. She has been providing strategic leadership and direction for 11 years at Pioneer, but most importantly, has a real heart for serving our clients and our employees. Let's welcome Karen Lee.
Thank you, Angela, and thank all of you for participating in our annual Changemaker Luncheon. I'm here right now in the courtyard of Aspen Terrace, our newest apartment building, where we provide a safe and healthy home for over 90 residents here in downtown Seattle and Capitol Hill. The people that we house in this facility may have been incarcerated for many years. They may be coming from some type of residential treatment facility. They may be homeless or struggling with near homeless for many, many years. So as you're seeing this beautiful space, you can't see it, but next to me, there's a number of garden herbs. I can smell basil, there's mint, there's lavender, and this is just a small part of the environment and the home atmosphere that we have here. One of the things that we're raising funds for are our Roadmap to Success job training program, along with our housing support dollars. I'm standing in front of this beautiful mural that was painted by one of our Roadmap to Success graduates. And the mural is called Transition. And I don't know if you can see, but there's a caterpillar that becomes and transforms to this beautiful butterfly. And that's the exact same things that happens in each and every one of our Roadmap to Success graduates. 96% of our graduates have no new arrests and are working their way towards self-sufficiency and family reunification and voting and home ownership. And health, all the markers that we know creates happiness. And that's what we're about. Here at Aspen Terrace, there's a story behind every client. And those stories give us insight into the humanity of all the individuals that we serve. Just today, I talked to tenants that had a 60-year prison sentence and was just immediately released to a strange new world. I talked to another tenant that was near homeless and is a veteran and is a former college professor. All these stories are human. And here at Pioneer, we want to give attention to every single person, regardless of their life circumstance, and then give them confidence and guidance and services so that they can have their best life. Our job training program and our housing support centers are all funded through philanthropy. That means that we are dependent on you, your support, and your gift. That's what it takes to keep these programs going. So on behalf of the board of directors, the senior leadership team, the employees of Pioneer Human Services, and most of all, the clients that we serve, thank you. Thank you for your care. Thank you for your participation today. And thank you for your donation. Back to you, Angela.
Thank you, Karen, and thank you for your leadership. That was an awesome tour. I remember it was just after Christmas last year when Aspen Terrace was opening and the first residents were moving in, and just a heartwarming opportunity for them. And I had a chance to speak to the mural that she showed you from the Roadmap to Success graduate, Myron Curry. There's a picture of it. And we did a story on his work and on his life and how Pioneer impacted the trajectory of his life on evening. So if you want to look that up, you can just search King 5 Evening and Pioneer Human Services, and you should find it there. But just do it after this program, because we have a lot more exciting stuff in store for you, including a game. But first, I want to just take a moment to acknowledge our board of directors, because they're doing the work year long, as well as the staff, obviously, at Pioneer. So the board, if you could just say hello in the chat, we see your names on the screen, but definitely give us a shout out in the chat. And also some appreciation to the staff who make all those programs happen. I remember visiting Aspen Terrace and having a chance to talk to the people who work there, and their passion is palpable. They have their own stories to share, and we're just so lucky to have them and the board of directors. So thank you so much for your service. Are you ready to play another game? I'm ready. I think we have this dialed in. We're going to pull up 3 statements. One of them is a lie. It is up to you to detect the lie. So let's pull up those statements right now. Here we go. A, 96% of graduates of Roadmap to Success job training programs have no new arrests after 1 year. B, we house a maximum of 60 residents at our newest apartment complex, Aspen Terrace, the one Karen just showed us around at. C, there is a story behind every client. Which of these statements is the lie? And you can just type that in the chat, A, B, or C. A little bit of a drum roll. Let's see if we have, oh yeah, we have the answers coming in. Can we reveal the answer now? Which one is the lie? Okay, it is B. We house a maximum of 60 residents, because the truth is we house over 90 residents at our newest apartment complex, Aspen Terrace. Thank you so much for participating in our game. It was a lot of fun and we learned a lot. I'd like you to meet another member of our Changemaker community. I am excited to introduce a special guest. You'll learn about his journey in just a moment, and we're lucky to have him live in the studio to share some updates. But first, here's the story of Jacob Day.
I started going wrong. I just made some bad choices. I started with marijuana when I was a kid, and about the time I graduated high school, cocaine made an appearance in my life. That was it for me. It was a love affair. Once you smoke crack, for me, it was over. And that was what I spent my whole 20s and early 30s doing, was chasing that love affair. Pioneer is a place of second chances. They actually gave me 2 chances. I've actually worked for Pioneer twice. The first time I went to Pioneer was my 3rd time coming out of prison in 2010. So they gave me a job, but unfortunately, even though I thought that I finally got this career path, unbeknownst to me, I still had some reservations. So 10 months into my first stint at Pioneer, I had started smoking marijuana again, and they had to fire me. That led me into my worst run on the streets that I had in my whole life, 16 months until I ended up in federal prison. So I was 36 at that time. I've been running the streets basically since I was 19. I can't really explain it. You just have to know. I just had to be tired enough. I finally was tired enough. But, federal prison, in my mind, it's a whole nother level, right? How bad do I have to let myself get? How much more time do I have to waste? And when I got out of prison, I was doing drug court. And then about 1.5 years, right before I was about to graduate drug court, I noticed that Pioneer was hiring, and I called and I said, "Do you need somebody?" He said, "Yeah, we'd love to have you back." So right away, there was opportunities to show that I was serious and that I was of value. And I felt like I was home, because, at Pioneer, you can be yourself. I just felt embraced, and the opportunities were just kept presenting themselves. And maybe there's one thing from the streets that taught me, is that I'm really good at making organization out of chaos. And shipping and receiving is kind of like organized chaos. I found I was really good at that, and it showed in my work. So I was able to blossom. Once I was really good at my particular set of skills and jobs, I had the opportunity to branch out to every other area of shipping and become good at everything. Eventually, because I had taken the time to learn all those areas, I was able to basically out interview both the current leads, and that was a huge moment of personal validation for me. You know, from then I just was able to blossom more, feeling like you're needed and your opinions matter. You know, validation is a huge thing for myself because I doubted myself for so many years, right? You know, Pioneer was able to get a grant to send me to school to get my CDL. And when I came back with my Class A commercial driver's license, you know, my life has just skyrocketed from that point. I just can't thank Pioneer enough for that gift, you know? And what Pioneer really gave me is a rock solid foundation to build my life upon. And this is my 35-page DSHS background check. 10 felonies, 8 gross misdemeanors, and 8 misdemeanors. If that's all people had to judge me by, how would I ever get ahead? How would I ever get a chance? Those 2 labels, felon and drug addict, Pioneer just, you know, they throw these kind of things out the window. And so hopefully today, I feel like I can live up to much better labels like uncle, father, son, fiance, brother. I don't know, people need a chance to prove that they're worth more than what the state has to say about their criminal history. And Pioneer, that's what they're all about.
Wow, that was powerful. Jacob, thank you so much for sharing your story. I think so much resonated with us. When you talked about at Pioneer, you can be yourself. How powerful is that? And I just want to read a couple of things in the chat from Jacob because you're not able to probably see that right now. Someone said, Jacob, you are of value. Susan says, we do recover by the millions. You are awesome, Jake. Jacob, you are a shining example for us all. Thank you so much for sharing your story. I know you're live in the studio. I'm going to turn it over to you for a few moments.
Thank you, Angela. Actually, a couple big things have happened to me since we shot that video last month. On September 11th, I celebrated 8 years clean and sober. And then the following weekend on September 18th, my fiance and I, we moved into our very first home. So we are first-time homeowners, and it's just amazing. We're just so blessed. And the reason I'm here today and why I wanted to share my story in the first place is to support Pioneer. So if anyone out there has ever given you a second chance, then we're asking for your support today. If anything about my story and what Pioneer has done for me has made you a believer in the power of second chances, then we're asking for your support today. If you're having staffing shortages like everyone else, then we're asking for your help in empowering an untapped workforce to help fill those gaps. And if you have a loved one whose life has been impacted by addiction or incarceration, and you want to ensure that they and others have the opportunity to utilize all of Pioneer's many resources, then we're asking for you to make a generous donation to us today. Thank you again.
Jacob, that's awesome. We appreciate the update that you've gotten your first home. Congratulations. I know the best is yet to come from you. Thank you for telling your story with us and for being so open.
My pleasure.
I know that a lot of folks are in the middle of donating, and we are so grateful. We just want to let you know about a couple of ways that you can maximize your impact. Thanks to a generous group of leadership donors and our community partners at Amazon, it's possible to double your gift. Donations to Changemaker of $300 or more will be matched. So you donate $300, you're going to make it $600 just by doing that right now. So that's something you should know about. And something else exciting to share, monthly gifts. Such an easy way to support Pioneer, and maybe it's a more affordable way for you to do so. So the first 10 people who sign up today to give monthly gifts at $25 a month or more, we will send you a $100 gift card. That's it. First 10 monthly donations of $25 or more, and you're going to get a $100 gift card. How cool is that? And again, we also have the match at $300 or more. So a couple of ways to just expand your impact. But the most important thing to keep in mind is that every dollar matters. 100% of Changemaker gifts will go directly to supporting our clients with job training and housing support. You've seen what's possible. I mean, you just heard what's happening at Aspen Terrace. You heard about Jacob's story. These programs couldn't exist without you, without our partners, without our donors. So whether you can give $10,000 or $10, it all adds up. It's all special to us. And we really are appreciative of your support. While you're giving, I am delighted that I get to introduce our, I guess we'll call you our keynote speaker, but our keynote interviewee, since we're doing it virtually this year. A little bit about him. He is an assistant professor in the University of Chicago Crown Family School of Social Work, Policy, and Practice. His research examines life at the intersections of race, poverty, crime control, and social welfare policy. His new book, Halfway Home, Race, Punishment, and the Afterlife of Mass Incarceration, is based on 15 years of research and practice with currently and formerly incarcerated men, women, their families, partners, and friends. Please give a warm welcome in the chat to Dr. Reuben Jonathan Miller. Welcome.
Thank you so much. It's such an honor. It's just really an honor. I was so touched by Jacob's story, of course, and by just the powerful work that Pioneer is doing. It's been a pleasure. I'm just happy to be here.
Yeah, I know we were talking before you came on stage about just how I said, I think we need more pioneers like across the country. And this was your first time learning about Pioneer. I mean, what struck you as you were watching the whole program and hearing about their efforts?
Everything in the literature tells us that people with criminal records need a bridge. So it's not enough to just train, and it's not enough to just get people ready, for example, for the worlds of work or the worlds of housing. So in criminal justice parlance, we might talk about this as human capital development. It's not enough to just develop people's human capital. People need bridges so that they can work their human capital. So they need direct access to employers. They need people to vouch for them, to put their name on them and say, these are good guys. And the literature tells us that when folks do that, employment rates go up, rates of housing instability go down, recidivism rates go down. And so the work that Pioneer does really lines up very closely with the literature on what people with criminal records need.
Yeah, we're going to talk more about your book and the research in just a moment, but I just want to let our audience know that you do have an opportunity to ask some questions of Dr. Miller. To the right of the chat, you should see a Q&A tab. You can put your question in there, and there's a way that you can vote up a question that you really want him to answer, and then we will choose some of the more popular, maybe at least one or two of the more popular questions throughout this conversation. So go ahead and put your questions in if you have them or as they come up in the Q&A portion on your screen to the right of the chat. So, first of all, Dr. Miller, I was really struck by your title. I always like to talk about, because I'm sure you had a lot of iterations of what you should call this book that captures really what it's about. And you called it Halfway Home. Tell us about why you chose that one and what it means for you.
Thank you for this question. I was struck by how many different ways through our law and our policy we make it so that people never find their way home. There are 45,000 laws, policies, and administrative sanctions that target people with criminal records. We call these collateral consequences, something like 19,000 labor market restrictions. This is what I was saying, like the work of Pioneer is so powerful, 1,000 housing restrictions. And what we've done is we've made it so that people get stuck. And they get stuck in part because of decisions. People make bad decisions, absolutely. But once they've made a decision to change their lives, we have a policy regime that says, there's no place for you. We've made it so that there's no place for people. And so Halfway Home reflects that it's both about being stuck. And then the other side of that is I spent many years in places like Pioneer, both residential drug treatment programs, prisoner reentry programs, halfway houses also. And so it's also in some ways a play on that, the idea that people will meet you halfway and offer support halfway. It's the place where people are, and it's also the place that reflects what they need.
Beautifully articulated. Thank you for that. And I just want to slow down on one piece of what you said, because I want people to take this in, people who haven't read your book. I remember reading, I think it is towards the beginning, and you talked about how many laws are on the books just to make it difficult for people to re-enter society. And I'm sure there are certain states that are worse than others. But can you give us that number again? Because when you put that in writing, I was like, wow. And I know from working with people who have left prison that, you know, one slip up in their back, oh, I used a phone, I did this, I had a dog, whatever it was. Can you just help us take that in a minute?
Absolutely. When I wrote the book, there were 45,000 laws, policies, and administrative sanctions that target people with criminal records, regulating where they can go, with whom they might live, how they might spend their time. And just to emphasize one additional statistic, when we think about the importance of work, there are 19,000 labor market laws, policies, or sanctions, over 19,000. So in my state of Illinois, for example, they're well over 500. You know, the devil's always in the empirical details. But when you consider access to business licenses and property rights in my home state, that number goes from over 500 to over 900, about 960. And so state by state, there will be nearly 1,000 labor market regulations. But there are other laws that I want to make sure that we think about too. When you leave prison, you get handed something called conditions of release. These are laws on top of laws. These aren't codified laws in any jurisdiction, but they're things you must do and things you may not do that are just for you and for everyone who walks out of that place. And those laws might say things like, you may not cross state lines while you're on probation. You may not associate with, for example, known offenders. And this is a big problem because we forget that these are human beings. And so if you've been in a cage for 10 years, the people who you did time with have helped you. You formed family, you formed friendships. And we hand you a sheet of paper that says, on top of the 45,000 laws, if you talk to your bunkie, your cellie, your rappy, you'll go back to jail or prison. And this is something that we have to think very carefully and critically about if we want to make sure that the world is a better, safer, more just place.
Wow. So it's like you put people in prison, separate from family. A lot of situations make it difficult for you to see your family. And then when you get out, now let's, basically not have that family. It's just, you're right. I love that you said keeping in mind the humanity, that they're human beings. I love that. For those who have not read your book, I'm just showing it once again, can you just give us an overview of your research? Because you, as I understand, you started as a chaplain, right?
That's right. I was a volunteer chaplain. So, and this was from 2003 to 2008, I was a volunteer chaplain at the Cook County Jail. And, I'm a religious guy, obviously, and so I was moved by scripture. And in the middle of the scripture, there's a question that the Most High asks of the people who follow him or love him or care for the Most High, however we see them. And the question is, when I was sick and in prison, did you visit me? This follows, when I was hungry, did you feed me? When I was naked, did you clothe me? And this, when I was sick, did you visit me? When I was in prison, did you visit me? And it moved me. So I went to the Cook County Jail to work with people who were visiting folks who were incarcerated. And I did that for about 5 years. And while I was there, I started seeing people from my neighborhood because I was born poor and Black after 1972. This is the year that mass incarceration begins in earnest. So from 1972 to about 2008, we incarcerate more people at a greater rate. So we moved from about 300,000 people in American jails and prisons to well over 2 million. And so I'm doing this work at the height of this moment. So that was my entree. That was my introduction. It was meeting people. It was hearing their stories. It was learning about the way they experience loss, about how they deal with the separation from their family, and also helping people through their own sicknesses, the death of their loved ones. This is how I met people in their worst time, offering care in that way.
Because as a chaplain, you get access, perhaps that some other people can't. They may not have those same access points. So it was your faith that kind of led you there. And then that was the spark that led you into doing more research. So can you give us a bird's eye view of that?
Absolutely. So I thought this is what I wanted to do for a living. I said, hey, I want to be a chaplain. I love this work. And I went to social work school to learn clinical skills because I realized I would talk to people about their religion and their spirituality, but what they most needed was material support. housing, jobs, substance abuse treatment, help to reunite with family members that they have been separated from. So when I see guys on the outside, for example, they talk to me about, having trouble reconnecting with their children. And I wanted those clinical skills. So I went to go become a social worker because I wanted to be a really good chaplain. And when I got to social work school, I got confronted with the literature on mass incarceration. Mm-hmm. And it raised a new set of questions for me. And so then I started to study it. And so I decided not to be a chaplain just because I changed my mind.
You're allowed to do that.
You're allowed to do that, right? Absolutely. Everybody gets a second, third, fourth chance to figure out their life. And so this is one of my chances. Anyway, so I decided to do a PhD and study mass incarceration as a sociologist to better understand it. But while I was in the middle of this research, while I was doing this work, my brother was incarcerated. Now, I had known people who had been locked up before, and my brother had been locked up in different ways, before. In fact, two of my brothers had been to jail or prison. But also while I was doing this work, I met my father for the first time. I was in my late 20s at this time, and learned that he had been incarcerated for about 20 years. And the reason for this is simple. I was born poor and Black after 1972. I couldn't have avoided the prison if I wanted to. It follows you. It's like a ghost. I didn't start studying mass incarceration because I had family members who were incarcerated. I had family members who were incarcerated because the prison is a giant force in the life worlds of all Americans. 1 in 2 Americans have a loved one who's been to a jail or prison. This includes 1 in 8 current white American women have a loved one who is right now in an American jail or prison. And so this is a giant American problem that we have to wrestle with. And so I decided to do that through my research as well as through my practice.
So you went into the research, and I love how you followed your curiosity and your passion the whole way. Was there something you expected to find when you got there? And then what did you find that maybe surprised you?
Well, what I found was people made dynamic lives for themselves, both on the inside and especially on the outside. And this was despite all of the constraints that they faced. There was something beautiful about this. I'd watch mothers parent their children 15 minutes at a time through collect phone calls. Mm-hmm. And while that was tragic, I saw the effort and the initiative that they put into every phone call, all those phone calls. I watched grandmothers pool money together with friends and family so that they could mount a legal defense for a grandson who was in trouble. I watched people go almost bankrupt, paying for those calls, paying for that attorney, paying for that food that they'd send, ramen noodles or snacks, honey buns, et cetera, that cost twice as much on the inside as it does in the free world. But I watched the resources that they figured out how to pool together to support the person that they love most and the great lengths that they took to do that. And I watched men find their family while in prison, men and women. And I watched men and women lose their families while they were in prison. And I was struck by the fullness of life that we see. And I was struck by the deep humanity that I found at every moment, whether those were moments of suffering or moments of joy.
So many stories. And I think that's what I particularly love about this book is you kind of give us a window into each person's story. And I think the one that stood out to me was Yvette. And, 10 years after her incident, facing, not being able to keep her job, 10 years later. And also the piece, I don't remember the exact percentage, but this high percentage, well over 80% of women incarcerated victims of some kind of sexual violence. And so that's a story that stays with me. When you think about all the stories, are there ones that stay with you?
Yeah, many stay with me, but the one that stays with me, that gives me great hope, is the story of my dear friend, Ronald Simpson Bay. And of course, Yvette's story. Like Yvette is a powerhouse. She's anyway. Yvette is a dear friend, and I just love her. And so is my dear brother Ronald. But tell you about Ronald. He was wrongfully convicted. Now most people in my book are quote guilty. Like most people, were incarcerated for things that they did. In this case, Ronald wasn't. And so he was incarcerated for shooting at a police officer. He wasn't at the scene of the crime. You know, there's a whole, the book walks through it. And they give him 50 years. And he serves 27 years of that 50-year sentence. And somewhere in the middle of that sentence, his son gives him a call and says he's gonna come meet him. It's Father's Day. It's in the 2000s. And his son is murdered. His son is murdered by a 14-year-old boy. Ronald is about 16 or 17 years into his sentence. Ronald decides that the child who, a 14-year-old boy kills his son. He decides that the 14-year-old boy, who the state of Michigan was going to charge as an adult, shouldn't be charged as an adult, should be charged as a juvenile so he can get a second chance, so he can reimagine and reinvigorate his life so that he could become something productive. And I wondered why. Why would you do that? If someone killed my boy, I would hate them. Mm-hmm. I would, you know? And I wondered if he loved him. Did you love this child? No, he didn't love the child. But he made a decision. He decided it was the right thing to do. That boy suffering for the rest of his life wouldn't bring his son back. And he made a decision from an ethical place, not a place of good feeling, not a warm and fuzzy, not a place of charity, but he made the decision because it was the right decision. And so he decided that boy who killed his son, who harmed him, who he had reason to hate, who he had reason maybe to fear even, deserved a place in the world, deserved to belong. And that sticks with me because I remember at the end of the day, we're talking about human beings, even people who caused us harm, even people who've committed violent offenses, that these people deserve a place in the world because they're human beings and because they are fully human participants in our human community. And our job then is to make a world in which people belong, even people who've caused us harm. That's what I take from Ronald, and that stays with me.
That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. And, you know, our words matter. And I think about how often people want to use words like monster. And I notice in the book, you use cages to talk about prison. Our words matter, don't they? And how we talk about people. And it's not always about a feeling, but about our values.
I think so. I think words absolutely matter. I mean, I use cages in the book because I think people are held in cages. I mean, when I go to a prison, I see, you know, the doors slide and close, the doors lock. If you're behind bars, I think it's accurate to call it a cage. So on the one hand, I think it's accurate. On the other hand, I think we use language like prisoner, inmate, felon, convict, because those words are shorthand for things that we're afraid of. It's shorthand. So I try to be accurate, but I also try to be respectful. I try to use person-centered language. So if I talk about somebody with a criminal record, I say someone with a criminal record. Now, this isn't for me a hard and fast rule, but it's my ethical decision that I want to respect. I'm going to do everything I can, and this is one way that I try to respect the humanity of the people who I've spent so much time with.
Gotcha. We have a couple of great questions in the Q&A that I want to bring out to you. Someone said, this is from Mac, thank you. What can individuals do to deal with employers still reluctant to hire individuals with records of victimless crime, unquote?
Yeah, I think two things. I think partnering with organizations, as Pioneer does, for example, that will hire formerly incarcerated people, and showing them the efficacy, showing them that every study that's been done on this population shows no increase in crime. In fact, every study, any criminologist worth their salt will tell you that access to employment reduces crime, reduces violence. And so if employers respond to data, you know, then reveal the data. The other thing that have happened are experiments where, for example, college campuses have decided, hospitals, et cetera, have decided to hire people with criminal records. And what they reported is not only do people with criminal records not commit more crime or additional crime or different amounts of crime than, say, members of the general public. In other words, if you're worried about danger, there's just as much danger from everybody else walking around in the world. But also that those employers are great employees, right? So they're happy to work, they show up on time, they do the thing when trained. when a service provides the access to the kinds of things they need so that they can be good employees. So in other words, sharing the stories of the successes, I think, might go a long way.
All right, perfect. Thank you. One other question. Does your research indicate any one most important support that formerly incarcerated people need? And is there any difference in that one thing might be by race or sex?
So I'm going to answer this question the best way that I can. Because I don't know that there's one thing.
Yep.
I think the thing that we have to remember is that these are human beings. So all the things that you need are the things that people with criminal records need. So what do we need? What do we all need to thrive? This point that you raised earlier, Angela. What do we all need to thrive? We need deep connection with our families. We need support to have those connections. We need to be able to feed ourselves and to contribute to the worlds in which we live. We need to be able to participate civically. So if I approach this question from an ethic of care and from an ethic of hospitality, from a place of belonging, where I say, what does someone need to thrive, if they're anyone, criminal record or not? Then once those things are provided, that person will indeed thrive. So all the things we know in literature, housing, substance abuse treatment, connections with family. Consequently, the law breaks all those connections the way they're written. And so we need to revisit these things so that people might indeed thrive.
And on that note, because I think what I'm getting from these questions, people are here because they want to help. They know they want to make a difference. And when you think about your years of research and the stories that you've encountered, what can individuals do? Like what else? You've mentioned about being able to tell the success stories. That's one. Anything else that individuals can do to support re-entry? And yeah, just simple steps that we can take?
There are 1,000,005 things. I'll say 3. So thing one is to pay very close attention to the people that you're voting for. Local politics matter much more than I think we give credit for in the public discourse. We tend to pay attention only to federal elections, but it's really that DA. It's really folks at the city level of city council, aldermen, the ward. This thing really matters. The mayor. These things really matter because they make decisions at the local level where there's lots of power and autonomy. That's part one. Part two is to support organizations like Pioneer. This is incredibly important. Support organizations like Pioneer that do this good work, that broker connections. If you're an employer, the best way to help somebody with criminal record is to employ people with criminal records. And one great way to do that is to connect with organizations that have a track record of success so that you can figure out how best to incorporate people who have some challenges into your workforce. And the last thing is in the place of housing. Advocate for housing. Housing matters. If you don't have a house, you can't keep a job. Or it's very hard. If you don't have a house, it's very hard to stay connected to your family. Instability breeds trouble. And so what we want to do is we want to draw strong lines to stabilizing resources. We want to connect resource poor people to resource rich institutions. This is the way out. This is the way out.
Love that. Thank you.
Sorry, last thing is the felony record expungement, sealing of records, pushing so that people aren't held accountable for things they've done 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago that have nothing to do with the job or the house or the things they're trying to do in their lives now.
Anything else you want us to know today?
I think that what this organization is doing focuses on the humanity of these precious people. These are human beings. We see that in Jacob's story. You'll see that in a million stories throughout my book. If we just remember that these are our brothers, sisters, cousins, aunts, our loved ones, and not some stranger lurking in the dark to harm us, that these are people we know, love, and care for. If we live our lives in that way, govern in that way, make decisions about who we hire, who we spend time with, who we lease apartments to, this kind of thing, we'll have a better, more just, and more safe world.
We are so grateful for your voice, and we're grateful that you took the time to be with us today. And where can people find your book? I know that was a question in the chat. Is it online, widely available?
It's widely available. It's where all bookstores are sold. Certainly Barnes & Noble, it's on Amazon. It's in every indie bookstore can get their hands on it.
Yeah, well, you just keep following your curiosities and your passions because no telling what you'll come up with next.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Miller. You know, it's interesting because during this conversation, we got a chance to see just how Dr. Miller's research really aligns with the work that Pioneer is doing. So just a reminder that we do have some $100 gift cards left. So if you can do that $25 monthly donation to Pioneer, or if you can make the $300 donation or more and get that match, we would really appreciate it. I'd love to check in to see how our fundraising is going. So our goal today is $250,000, and it looks like we are at $77,000. So not quite halfway there, but I know we can do it. I know we can do more. And I just invite you to share the story of Pioneer, share the stories so that we can keep the giving going, because without these donations, we can't make the programs happen. And as you can see, there's a lot going on. So thank you all for the giving that you've already done today. All right, it looks like I have to announce. Okay, sorry, I was just getting some producer feedback. A couple of things to note. I want to give the names of the winners of, let's see, this was the gift card to Daniel's Broiler for those who joined earlier. So here are the 5 winners. They are, and forgive me if I mispronounce your name because I have pronouncers on here, but it's Richard Shetter, Sarah Pierre Lewis, Tama Johnson, Cindy, and Ruta. So congratulations. We'll be in touch with you on how to get your $100 gift card to Daniel's Broiler. So thank you for participating in that. Let's see. I want to do one final look at the thermometer here. Okay, wait, because now the money from our sponsors is thrown in. So we can take a look at our thermometer. You can see we're over halfway there now, $145,000 of our $250,000 goal. So 60% of the way there. And we know that for these virtual events, the giving can continue. Oh, wait a minute. I just saw the thermometer move. Was that a technical glitch, director, or is this real? Is this real? Can I get a thumbs up from my producer? Can we celebrate? Play some Cool in the Gang. Yeah, I'm told it's real. So we surpassed our goal. We blew it out of the water. More than $300,000. I can see Dr. Miller grinning from ear to ear. Thank you so much. I just love that in the Pacific Northwest, we are doing such great work, and Pioneer is part of the fabric of that. And being able to see people's humanity every day, being able to be a bridge for people, as Dr. Miller said, giving people basically the basic things that humans need, and they will thrive. And so we're so grateful that you're part of that story. But I want to make sure, before I let you go, if there's anything else you need to do, I want to thank our sponsors again for your participation in this, all of those that I mentioned to you. And let's see, one other thing. A couple of other things I have to mention. Dr. Miller's book, Halfway Home, we're putting the link in the chat so you can buy his book. Also, we'd love it if you would sign up for our e-newsletter. Here's what you do. It's bit.ly/PHS News. That's bit.ly/PHS News. And follow Pioneer on social media. That is a great way for you to have an impact. Maybe you gave today and you're thinking, hey, I want to do more. What else can I do? Being able to follow us on social media and share those stories is a great way to do that. And you can see we put the link there for you to sign up for the e-newsletter so that you can just stay connected with us throughout the year. And also on the screen, you see all of our social media channels, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. We have it all. I just had a little glitch on my screen and I want to see what you're able to see. But it has been a pleasure to be with you today. We're going to give you some time. You don't have to completely log off. You can go back and mingle at your tables. And Jacob, congratulations. And thank you once again for sharing your story. We're so proud of you and just can't wait to see what you do next. On that note, it was a pleasure being your host again. Thank you for your support, and we look forward to seeing you throughout the year.